It's always a challenge to narrow things down to what you want to talk about at New Beginnings. So I'm up till 12:30 last night. I'm like, I got it. It's good. I did a couple slides. And my slides are really nothing more than my notes. If you want to write anything down, it's basically just notes to myself. But feel free. And then this morning, out of the blue, I wake up at 5:30, and I'm like, crap, I only slept for 5 hours. I got to bring it. You know, this is the 30th anniversary. This is big. And I woke up and I went out to my window and opened a curtain, and that's what I was rewarded with at 5:30. That's why I was supposed to get up. Pictures are worth 1,000 words, right? So you see that? Inspiration, God, creation, magnificence. And then sometimes reality slaps you in the face. I came downstairs to meet some friends for breakfast, and Gary Stewart and I were in the lobby, and we went to go get my truck to go to breakfast. The elevator doors part, and there's Jim Dubell. Same clothes as last night. Hair looks like frickin' Billy Idol. And he's like, what happened to you? Oh, my wife didn't bring my luggage up from downstairs. It's always Bab's fault, right? So I'm like, there we go, that's reality. Now we're back in the real world. So that served its purpose for a while. 30 years of doing this. I haven't been here for 30 years, but I've been a chiropractor going on 35 next month. Thank you. It's amazing to think that it started with a thought. It started with an idea, as does every great thing. And we've all learned a lot of that recently, haven't we? Are you all like me? You spent way too much time there. There's always biographies on. I know the food that built America. I know the candy that built America, the cars that built America, the men that built America. I mean, I've learned so much during COVID that I didn't know before. Most of it's probably worthless. But there's some inspirational stories out there. So some of these biographies are really cool if you get a chance with some individuals. And since we're honoring Jay Hant, I happen to dig this picture up from April of 1990. I was at a interwinter seminar that he and Chuck Ribley still do today out in Nogales, Arizona. So you can see Jay with Kathy, and there's Chuck and Ruth Ribley there as well. And just thought I'd throw that up there for some nostalgia. And thank you, Jay, for all you do and everything you stand for this organization. We so appreciate it. Now, when you're preparing for New Beginnings, you're just looking for stuff. And Brian Dooley, those interviews were awesome. I watched every single one because it got me more and more excited about who was going to be here. I know they're not going to know what they're going to say because they're all like me. You figure it out when you get here for the most part because somebody else is going to take something before you go up that you were going to say. So he did all these little interviews, and the week before, Pam Jarboe got interviewed. And, you know, Pam is Pam. She's having like a conversation, and all of a sudden she gets into that split-second serious mode and says, you know, your health affects everything you do and everyone you know. And I was like, I got my whiteboard in my reception area. I need something for the whiteboard. That's it. So that was given to me, and I mentioned that when Brian and I spoke on the interview before New Beginnings. And I know Pam I've heard her speak several times. She's probably said this every time she spoke. And I don't know if it's a rumor or what about her being Amish and Irish or if that's a joke. So I was thinking that I was mesmerized by her Amish Irishness, and I just never heard that before. But today she talked about it the one time I decided to share it with you. So I'll give Pam the credit for that one. But that's how it works. It all just kind of flows and comes to you. So we got to be a little bit serious to some degree. I try to keep things light as best I can. But all my patients that were talking to me about herd immunity, this is what I told them. We're not trying to reach herd immunity. We're trying to reach herd conformity. They want enough of us to believe the bullshit that it becomes our reality. And it's not. It's not. We know that. We somehow, swimming upstream, have to turn the tables on this nonsense and not be afraid of what people think, not be afraid of being judged. Just tell it like it is. My God, we dance around stuff so scared of losing a client that we cheat them because they're eventually going to leave anyway, probably, if you're not upfront with them because they feel that. And then what have you really provided? You provided a therapeutic service. There's my vaccine immunization record. I wanted to be one of the first ones to have one in the New Beginnings group. So you can see I use my alias, Richard Hertz. Those of you who get the joke will get the joke. Those of you who won't. And this was from the CBC because I didn't want any type of copyright infringement. I didn't have another note card with me down here at New Beginnings because I was going to call it the KMA for Kiss My Ass. But my vaccine is my natural immune system. My manufacturer is God. The date that I got it has been all of my life. And the site where I received it is from the universe. Thank you. What else do you need? I mean, seriously. You're dealing with forces so much greater and more powerful than anything people can make in a laboratory, but yet we just refuse to acknowledge it, we refuse to accept it, and we just keep looking out there for all the answers, and it's all right in here. Now, I closed my office the first week of the shutdown in Pennsylvania for the pandemic, whatever you want to refer to it as. But you know what? My office was going to be closed that week because I was supposed to get a hernia surgery that they put off on me because they stopped doing elective surgery. I took the whole damn week off, canceled all my patients so I could recover. I had nothing to recover from but trying to figure out what am I supposed to do. I called Kevin. I called Gary. I called Andrew Lasaro. I talked to Dubell. What are we doing? You're just trying to navigate this mess of what's legal. What are we supposed to do? Do we wipe everything down every time? Do we wash our hands every time? Do we change the face paper twice instead of once? What the heck are we doing? I had no clue, but neither did anybody else. And if anybody tells me that they didn't have some degree of fear and uncertainty when this hit, just leave right now because you're not true to yourself. This has never happened before in our lifetime. How can you not fear something that you've never experienced before that could create such potential panic and chaos in your life and in your practice? I didn't know what was coming. Neither did you. Man, it's tough. Then in May, they finally did my hernia surgery and I had to close for another week to recover, but then I had already taken the other week off. So, geez, just nonsense. I called, the hospital said, Mr. Wack, we're going to have to cancel your surgery because it's elective. I'm like, I'm not afraid of dying. Please just do it. I'm sorry, we can't. It's against our regulations. So we're asked to give up our freedom. So freedom at the price of conformity and compromise is not freedom. Here's your ticket to ride, but you can no longer live freely. You must put this shot in your arm. You must comply. You must conform. That is not freedom. My God, why aren't more people pissed off about this? I don't understand. Not just chiropractors, and hopefully the wave is starting to come. But we are part of the mechanism to get that wave out to the public. I know some of us follow Billy DeMoss. Billy's great. He is totally unfiltered. But one thing he just recently posted was about how, for years chiropractors, we're not vaccine doctors. We shouldn't be talking about vaccines. It's got nothing to do with chiropractic. Well, it does. Especially now. We've avoided it because I think it puts more responsibility for you to go out and get informed and have information that's credible and speak to people who are indoctrinated with the idea that that has to happen for them to be healthy. Got to change it. It has to shift at some point. So when I was out walking yesterday on the boardwalk, I ran into the Castellucci's out there. And the one thing they mentioned about this weekend is not to dwell so much in what has happened. We've all been through it. We've all experienced the same emotions, but to try to make this weekend a point where we move on. We have to move forward. It's like carrying that suitcase of bricks around that you pick up when you get out of bed, and you take it everywhere that you go for the whole day, and you don't put it down till you lay down again at night. It's a burden. It's holding you back. It's blocking you from being you. It's blocking your expression of being who you need to be for all those people you're responsible for. Put the suitcase down and let it go starting this weekend. And I'm pretty sure this popped in my brain, and I know Jay Hant mentioned it at A New Beginnings. Your thoughts directly affect your physiology. And I was telling Pam, her and I are kind of on the same wavelength because there's another thing I'm going to put up that's exactly something she said earlier. But when she was up here speaking, she's not afraid to share her past because she's not ashamed of it. It's her life. It's her story. And some of you may learn from other people's stories that they've worked through and broken those barriers down. But you notice when Pam spoke, her physiology changes. She becomes a little different. She's not totally Pam. But that's that memory that stays with you. And you'll never forget things that caused you problems, things that affected you very negatively in your past. But you have to forgive, you have to move on, you have to find mechanisms to get past that. Otherwise, there'll be that suitcase of bricks that'll be with you forever. New beginnings here can be a source of healing. And I used to go to the gathering seminars up until Sig passed. And I'll tell you, I wish you all could have been there and we could still go right now. Because there's an energy that happens when a group like this of like-minded people gets together. And whether you're in a circle or not, which we used to do a lot of things in a circle at New Beginnings, something will happen to you before you leave here. If you are holding on to something, this is, it's chiropractic, but man, if you got something in your life that's clogging you up and you need to talk to somebody about something in your personal life, maybe you've never even shared it with somebody. Find somebody here and go shake their hand and say, look, I don't know anything about you, but I need to get this off my chest. Do it. Lose it. Leave it here before you leave for this weekend, or it will affect your practice. And success has, we all know has nothing to do with money, the almighty dollar. My God, I know a bunch of rich, miserable people. They got nice cars, they got big houses, but they're idiots. They don't have any social skills. They don't relate to anybody. And they're up here and you're down here. It doesn't matter in this room who's seeing how many people, if you're a chiropractor, if you're not a chiropractor. We are all the same in this room, period. Nobody's any better. Nobody's any worse. And we're all here to bring each other up. And by the end of the weekend, take ourselves to new heights and new places. Now, Uncle Cecil, this is from the gathering, that we used to have Cecil Collins, Dick Santo, and Sigafus. They were like the elders of the group. And we used to do a thing in a circle. We called it the Circle of Forgiveness. And Cecil had this knack about him where we'd have 50 people sitting in a circle, and he would just kind of mosey around, and all of a sudden, boom, he'd go over and talk to Bobby. Bob, let me ask you something. There's somebody in your life or something's going on that might be holding you back, somebody you need to forgive, somebody needs to forgive you. And then, he knew. And then they would have a conversation and it would get resolved. But the unique dynamic is as you work around a circle, when you get people halfway around the circle start crying and he's nowhere near them. And by the time he gets to them, it's all worked itself out. Any of your problems you got here this weekend, any stuff you're carrying, it'll all be worked out. And you have to have faith in knowing that's going to happen for you. And that's difficult for some people too, is the faith part. Just losing that what if. This is similar to what Pam said. And I was hiking the Appalachian Trail a couple weeks ago. And I was like, man, I don't have anything to write with. How am I going to, all these thoughts started coming to me. It's the first time I'd just been like out and away from everybody for a while. And I took my backpack to make my hot lunch with my little stove, and I'm out there walking. I'm like, crap, I got a cell phone that's connected to everything. And I know I have a recording app on there. So I recorded some thoughts as I was walking. And it was no more than 2-3 minutes total time that I recorded stuff. But that's when the Spirit comes in. That's when that innate speaks to you. You've got to get quiet sometimes in order for that to happen. And I just came up with this. I don't even know what it means. If you know what you say, you know, and believe what you say you believe, then just do what you do. Forget about what others think. If it's coming from the heart and not your head, if it's right and it feels good for you to go share something or do something in your office that maybe you've been told you couldn't do, but you really want to, just do it. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? We're all not here forever. You know, it's just the reality of it. So in order to move forward, you got to find a way to get in touch with your spirit, like going outside. Be alone, be quiet and listen. Or like Pam also mentioned about listening to a lot more music with all this stuff that's going on. My God, who doesn't need a good release from Eddie Van Halen or Joan Jett? Something to just get you fired up and dig down deep and get into that visceral part of who you are. We're all clogged up. You got to get it out. It has to leave. Bear Grylls does a thing called Running Wild. He's an outdoor special forces, special ops guy from England. And he has a show where he takes celebrities out and they do all these adventures to test their limits. But he's a really good interviewer. And he said the reason that he gets all these tough people and celebrities to reveal things about themselves that they never have before is because when you're out in nature, it's raw and wild. And best of all, it's non-judgmental. That's what holds almost everybody back. What are they going to say? What are they going to think about me? I just turned 59, and I just think I'm getting more and more unfiltered, which is a good thing, because you got to be. And when I spoke at Spring Lake at New Beginnings, January 2020, when we did the polar plunge, I had a talk that I never thought was even in me. It was so emotional. My wife was there, and I had a spiritual and emotional healing experience that weekend, as well as freezing my ass off in the Atlantic Ocean. But that's another story. But it was just such a great weekend to get out there and confess and just let it all hang out. So the reason we played Joan Jett in the beginning, she's one of the biographies I watched that I just found very, very interesting. Joan is 62 years old now, and Joan knows how to bring it. Oh my God, this woman will give you her all in a performance, but she's out there because she cares about the fans. She cares about the people. She's never had a family, never had children, and her reasoning is that she wants her fans to experience a primal release from her music.